We're going to talk about the 3 characteristics of narcissism that you must know about in order to protect yourself from toxic relationships. This is golden information for those of you who aren't sure whether or not you're dealing with narcissists or not. So get out your pen and get a paper and get ready to write this down, because this is going to simplify it for you into 3 main characteristics. My name is Kevin, and this is the Royal We. Here's the 3 characteristics we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about Grandiosity. What is that? It's basically the love of self. That's number 1. Number 2, we're going to talk about the unforgiveness of narcissists. That's the 2nd characteristic. And then number 3, we're going to talk about the lack of self-control. All right, let's go ahead and jump right into it, beginning with number 1. This is how you know you're dealing with toxic narcissists. The grandiosity. What is grandiosity? Grandiosity is basically the love of self, but we're not talking about the healthy self-love, not the self-love that you and I are trying to gain as we heal from toxic narcissistic abuse. Healthy self-love that we're trying to gain is us trying to get to a place where we don't need any outside validation, right? Where we're learning how to be independent, sovereign individuals. That is a healthy form of self-love. The type of self-love that equals grandiosity in general can be described as being very boastful, right? So we're talking about people who are like always talking about their new we or their group of friends or how many degrees in college they have or what colleges they teach at and all this stupid shit, right? That we don't even really care about, but they're boasting about it. The second indicator in general is a proudness. They're proud. So proud that if they were even caught doing something wrong, they will justify it somehow, laugh it off, say it was a joke, or accuse you or anybody else of being the reason that something went wrong or they did something wrong. They can never just admit because they're too proud. Now let's stop right there. These general things, being boastful, talking about all their stuff, and being proud, not being able to admit their wrongdoing, right? These in and of themselves aren't necessarily indicators of narcissism. Listen, we could all be boastful. As a matter of fact, once I reach 100,000 YouTube subscribers, you best believe I'm going to be boasting about that. I'm going to be celebrating the Royal We family because I'm so genuinely happy for all of you, okay? Talk about being proud. There's forms of being proud that does not equal narcissism. For example, when you walk away from toxic abusive relationships, toxic parents, toxic exes, toxic friends, you're walking away, you're turning your back because you have a certain amount of proudness. That's not narcissistic, okay? So there's a key indicator. There's a key indication that you're dealing with a narcissist. The key indicator in all of this, in addition to being boastful, in addition to being proud, the key indicator, are you ready, is in their criticalness. Their criticalness of other people. So when you're with a person who is not only boastful and proud, but criticizes others, look at that person, they're stupid. You're ignorant. That's not good. That's dumb. That's selfish. What they're doing is they're attempting to maintain a certain level in life, and they're putting anything down that could possibly threaten them. So anything they perceive as being as good or better than them in any situation, they will stuff it down by criticizing, by cussing, by viciously attacking. This is your key indication that the love of themselves, the grandiosity, is in the narcissistic abuse category. It comes down to their criticalness of others. Write that one down. Number 2, we're going to talk about unforgiveness. Unforgiveness. Now, in general, when we talk about unforgiveness, we know that they do splitting. Splitting is when they split you or anybody who's offended them. They split them from anything that they could possibly do good and turn them into a complete enemy or villain. That is splitting. Okay? There's nothing good in them. They're just evil. Another form of, in general, unforgiveness is slandering. Talking bad about them, saying horrible things, putting them, just slandering them in general. Another form of unforgiveness is actually exaggerating. Exaggeration. Exaggeration comes in the form of telling the story, but in an exaggerated way, of how mean it was and how horrible the event was. Okay? Now, in general, these things aren't necessarily narcissistic, all right? When we talk about splitting, we do splitting. I've split right now narcissistically abusive people. I have a very hard time seeing anything good in them. All right, I've split them. People who I know who are narcissistic, I've split them. Number two, the slandering. We can all slander other people from time to time. And as far as exaggerating, even I'm sure that I've exaggerated the parts of when I was being abused, where I felt threatened with my life because they were calling me names. I'm sure I exaggerated to some extent because it really did hurt. Okay, but it doesn't mean my life was threatened. All right. So those in and of themselves are not necessarily narcissistic. But the key in the unforgiveness category to know of whether or not you're dealing with a narcissist is in the desire for punishment and abuse. Narcissists will have a desire to punish those who they unforgive, to punish those who they believe wronged them. Let's go out and kick their ass. If I ever find that person, I'm going to beat him down. Blah, 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 blah. That is the punishing aspect. And that's how you know you're dealing with the narcissist. If I see that person again, I'm going to... Narcissist. Abusive is another form. Abusiveness is a form of punishment, which is a form of unforgiveness. Abuse is not just physical. It's not just violent. It's not just hostile. Abuse can be shown through words. Abuse can be shown through isolation. Abuse can be shown through silent treatment, neglect. All these in effort to slander another person. So it's not just enough that they split them, they slander, they exaggerate the situation. Now they're moving into punishing and abusing the person who they believe offended them. This is how you know you're dealing with a toxic narcissist. Number three, not having any self-control. Now, not having any self-control in general means they live for pleasure, they're wild, and they are careless in what they do. All right. Now, living for pleasure, liking to get lots of money, liking to have parties and go to parties, wild and careless, doing things that are fun and crazy. How many of you have been there in life? I have too. These things are not necessarily narcissistic. A lot of these things are just immature, wanting to have fun, wanting to live for pleasure, having wild, careless moments in life. Okay. So what's the key? The key to understanding whether or not you're dealing with a narcissist comes down to the antisocial behavior in their carelessness and in their desire for pleasure. Now, antisocial does not mean what you think it means. It doesn't mean that they don't like social interactions with people. No. Antisocial means they do things that are against social norms. Let me give you an example. They will throw rocks at cars driving by because it provides some form of fun or whatever form. They don't stop to think for a minute that they might hurt somebody. That's antisocial. Or they'll hit golf balls close to a crowded group of people. Hey, this is fun. On one aspect, it's careless and reckless, and they're enjoying themselves. On the other end, it's antisocial. They have no stop and thought of empathy or thoughts of how it could hurt somebody if they hit somebody. That is antisocial behavior, and that is the key in the carelessness and in the living for pleasure. And I've experienced this with toxic narcissists, pushing people into pools, pushing people off of rocks, doing whatever they can do. And at the moment they think it's fun, they don't stop to consider what the ramifications might be. This is antisocial behavior. It's all fun until somebody gets really hurt. So if you see this as a key, get out of the relationship. It's toxic. So let's just focus on the keys now that you can write down. Key number one, under the category of grandiosity, it's their criticalness. That's your key that they're narcissists. Under the unforgiveness category, number two, is their punishing and abusing out of their unforgiveness. That is the key. And then number three, not having any self-control. The key is their antisocial behavior, not caring about what they do and how it affects other people. Those are your three keys to know that you're dealing with a toxic, abusive narcissist. Listen, my name is Kevin, and I want to be a part of your healing journey. Visit www.jointheroyalwe.com, where you can schedule a one-on-one appointment with me. We can do a FaceTime appointment, telephone appointment, or even a text message appointment. Again, www.jointheroyalwe.com. is where you can schedule your one-on-one time with me to heal from toxic relationships. Every